Good afternoon. This is Lisa coming to you once again from my apartment. And let's talk today. We're going to dive right into a yin practice. This is a 30-minute practice meant to open up our hearts, to relax our spines, and also to work on our hips. So many of us might not be moving as much as we usually do. Hopefully you're getting outside. But if you're spending a lot of time sitting, watching movies, or on the computer, hopefully this particular sequence will help to relieve and stretch those spaces that might have tightened up. So we're going to start off with our first shape right off the bat. It's going to be a supported back bend just to open up and move the spine, kind of relax the vertebrae in the spine to relieve some tension. When we sit a lot, we create a lot of compression on our vertebrae. So doing some gentle back bends can actually help relieve this compression. So if you'd like, I'm going to use my bath towels once again today rather than my prop. So if you have bolsters or blankets and you want to use that rather than using bath towels, feel free to grab the props you need, pause this video, grab whatever it is that you need for your practice. And then we'll just set this up. I'm going to keep my towel folded in half. So I've just got it folded in half like the standard towel, and then I'll fold it again in half, and then one more time in half. And then I'm going to roll that. I want to place this behind my spine, so it'll give me an opening through my chest and all along my vertebrae. I want to have my head supported here. If you would prefer to have this further down on the spine, you can just place a pillow behind your head. And I didn't grab a pillow today, but that's a really nice option as well. We're also going to use butterfly legs, so opening up this towel just so it's folded in half. And then I'm just going to fold it a couple of times to create just a long cylinder in which I'll wrap around my shins to support my legs. To set yourself up, you're going to move against on your mat so that your spine lines up over the towel. And as you lie back, make any adjustments to find that opening. Allow your head to be supported. You might want to get a little bit of a deeper bend in the head release here so we get this opening across the throat. So you might not need a towel behind your head or a blanket. Once you have that placed, soles of your feet will come together in a butterfly position, drawing your heels in as close as you can towards your groin, and then just take your towel and wrap it around your shins to support your legs here in this opening. And then as you lie back, begin to find the full expression of the shape. And so we begin to feel this little bit of a back bend. Once again, I have my trusty phone here to create our timing. We're just going to be here for about 4 minutes. So this shape and the upcoming shapes, we're not going to be holding for long periods of time, just so we can get 30-minute practice in. But in your own practice, if you'd like to make this longer, then always feel free to hold these shapes as long as feels comfortable in your body. So yin is about being rather than doing. It's a yin practice, not yang, meaning more introspective. It's a cooler practice. We don't want a lot of heat in the body. We're targeting the connective tissues, the ligaments, the tendons, the fascia that surrounds the muscles and surrounds the bones and really just holds our bodies together. And a lot of times it's this tissue that gets sticky and tight and grips and sticks rather than the muscles. So you can stretch the muscles, but if we're not targeting the connective tissues in these quiet, still shapes, you might not notice any relief in your flexibility or in tension that you might hold in your body. So yin practice is a really great way to delve deeper, to really open up these tougher tissues. The connective tissue is made of water and, I can't believe it's all falling out of my head right now. I always say this, well, we'll come back to that later, but it's a very strong, much stronger tissue than the muscle fibers. So it's collagen, elastin, and water. There we go. Let's see, the memory works occasionally. So when we are in these shapes, we're allowing the body to slowly stretch these tissues. So this practice is about stillness and time rather than effort. Once you're in the shape, the only job you have is to notice where you're feeling the sensation. Recognize if you're holding tension, if your shoulders are still hiking up towards your ears, if you're clenching your jaw, your buttocks, your leg muscles. You want to relax all the musculature of the body rather than tensing. The muscles protect our bodies. Once we release the muscle engagement, we can find a deeper opening. It doesn't feel like a lot is happening, but there is so much going on here. Fibers are rehydrating, realigning to slide and glide rather than grip and stick. About 40 more seconds here. Focus on your breath. If at any point you feel the need to engage your muscles, either shift the way that you're using your props or come out of the shape entirely. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, hands to your outer thighs, assist your knees back together, soles of your feet to the mat. Just gently roll to one side, remove the prop from behind your spine and roll back onto the mat. Pause here for a moment and just allow the knees to knock together, your feet to move wider than your hips, and just feel the spine settle. Allow the hips to feel heavy. And just notice what this feels like in your body. And then we'll slowly roll to one side. Placing your top hand down, press yourself back into your seat, and we'll move on to the next shape. So the next shape we'll move into is called shoelace. And I always recommend in shoelace, if you need to sit on the edge of a towel or your blanket, allowing your pelvis to gently tilt forward into its natural curve. So it's almost like feeling your pubic bone curl up, excuse me, a little bit towards your belly button. And when that happens, we return to the natural curve in the low back. And so sitting up onto the edge, make sure it's the edge, not the center of your blanket. Extend your legs out in front. Now keeping your right leg extended out, you'll draw your left knee in towards your chest. And then lift your left foot across your leg. From here, you'll begin to move your left foot towards your right hip. And then I like to kind of lift and push my hips back, so really coming onto my sits bones, the base of my pelvis, and move the knees. So we're really trying to stack one knee over the other here. You'll feel this nice stretch into the outer hips. Now, you don't have to come to this full stretch. Maybe your foot is onto the mat and that's giving you enough stretch. Maybe you're even staying over here. But just notice that pushing your hands slightly into your outer knee, you'll begin to feel a little stretch into the outer hip. So we want to pay attention to what the body needs right now. So stacking our knees up here, and then softening your foot. So rather than pulling the toes back towards your shin, we just want to soften the foot forward. I recognize now you can't see the top of my foot, you can see my toes. But from here, you can lengthen your spine. Really feeling this into the outer hip. If you feel any tugging behind your knee, you can just take one of your towels or your blanket and just slide it underneath your calf. You'll not quite get as much of a hamstring stretch, but will really protect our knee joint there. So really want to focus onto the hip. If you want a little bit more, we want to lengthen the spine, get tall, and then begin to hinge forward over your thigh. Softening your lengthened leg, and just allow your head to release forward. And just finding the shape that works for you. When we move forward like this, you'll get more of that stretch into the hamstring. And just connect to your breath here. Releasing muscular effort. Releasing the body. Just one more minute here. And if you're in that upright shape, just close down your eyes. Go within. Allow your body to feel the sensations and just quiet the mind. As you inhale, if you're folded forward, you'll slowly walk your hands back. Begin to lengthen your spine and lift through the heart so your head and neck lift up last into the shape, feeling your spine stacking. We'll move directly into the next shape, which is going to be a sleeping swan. And for sleeping swan, we're slowly going to shift onto the right hip. Left hip, sorry. And we're going to release the left leg back. Moving off of the blanket, we'll come forward onto all fours. You move your left foot forward and parallel onto the mat. I'm actually going to move back, realizing I'm a little close to the screen here. So moving back so you can see me here. We're going to align the shin as much as you can with the top of the mat. Now for me, I have really tight hips. Either that or I don't have a lot of mobility in my hip joint. So having my heel closer to my left hip is a little bit easier in this shape for my hips. And then we want to find a levelness in the low back here. So I always recommend also having a blanket to place underneath this hip here so we can rest without muscular effort. Extending your back leg out, and then inhale, get nice and tall. And then as you exhale, you're going to come forward. Now you can just stay at any variation. I did say this is sleeping swan, but this is a nice variation as well, making sure that your hips are nice and level. We're getting a stretch into the outer hip. You can also move down a little bit more or lie all the way down. And breathe. Once again, noticing if you're holding any tension. Breathing into the outer right hip. Feeling this nice stretch. If you feel like you're tilting to the left or the right, just use your blankets or your towels to tuck underneath your body. Use your props to support you. About 30 more seconds here. As you inhale, you'll slowly press yourself back into a seat. Shifting onto your right hip, allowing your left leg to come forward. And we'll move directly into the next shape, which is going to be square pose. And square pose can be kind of difficult. Lots of options here. Once again, making sure you're sitting on your sits bones, whether that means you're sitting on the edge of a towel, blanket, or just shifting your hips back to find that curve in the low back. That's going to be helpful. Now you can, excuse me, you can just stack your legs one in front of the other. If you have this in your body, begin to place your left foot on top of your right thigh. Keep your left toes flexed here. Now, as you can see, my hips are really tight and I have trouble getting this opening. So rather than forcing my leg down into position, I will just take this towel and support it by just tucking it underneath my thigh. Still getting a nice stretch in that outer hip. Now you can always keep the feet in front of each other for a less intense variation. If you would like a little bit more sensation, once again, you can lift up and as you exhale, hinge forward and then just allow your body to release and round to the expression that you can hold without tightening up. So you want to feel your head releasing, your shoulders relaxing, your arm bones hanging heavily out of the sockets. Notice that drawing the right toes back, we're protecting, the left toes back, we're protecting the left knee. And I'm still getting quite a bit of sensation in my hips. I don't need to force my leg to go any deeper. That'll come over time, maybe. Some of us have really narrow joints, so the ball and socket don't move quite as easily. There's not as much space. This could be a muscular thing, but for me, I always feel a bit of more of an impingement, meaning I'm actually bone on bone rather than it being a matter of tight musculature or tendon or ligament. It just feels like I'm compressing onto the bone. And that won't get fixed with yoga. Yoga doesn't fix bone on bone. That's just the space that we have in the body. You can create a bit more with props, but sometimes what it is what it is. And that's part of the practice, is recognizing our edges and being okay with our limitations or those edges, those boundaries. And take a deep breath in. If you're folded forward, lengthen your spine and slowly walk yourself back up. And then shifting onto your right hip, you'll slowly release your left leg forward. Oh, feel that hip moving your right foot to meet the left. Bending your knees, hands behind your hips. Allow the low back to release. A little windshield wiper from side to side. Ha! Always making whatever sounds feel good to release that, that sensation from the hips. So good. And then we'll take that sequence on the other side. So we'll start off with our shoelace pose. So extending the left leg this time. You might be sitting on that edge of the blanket or towel. Drawing your right foot in. Once again, you can stay here. Cross your leg over. Maybe that's enough sensation. Or if you can, continue to draw your right heel towards your left hip. Sometimes I like to kind of move my calf muscle out of the way so I can get a bit more stack of my knees, and then scoot that booty back so you can feel yourself on your sits bones, can move some extra flesh away so you can really feel that beneath you. And then from here, lengthening your spine, if you'd like, you can do that forward fold to get a little bit more sensation into the outer hip. So noticing where you're feeling this in your body, making the adjustments, getting a little stretch in the hamstring of the left leg and the outer right hip. And breathe. So nice to slow down, to let go of effort, and to allow the shapes to nourish your body in a way that effort really can't. When we breathe and release, we're inviting nurturing. We're inviting space. Just allowing the body to slowly move into the shape, rather than forcing your body into a position that it's not happy with. It's about 30 more seconds here. Take a deep breath in and lengthen your spine if you're in that fold. As you exhale, slowly walk your hands back, stacking the vertebrae, allowing your head and neck to come up last. And then gently shifting onto your left hip, extend your right leg out and release. And we'll move it directly into our sleeping swan shape. And I know some of you are saying, well, that looks like pigeon. It is pigeon, but this is yin, so it's swan. Our shapes are softer, fluffier, a little bit more gentle, although swans can be kind of vicious. And then coming into the shape, we're going to step the left foot forward this time and heel toe your left foot across your mat, finding either that parallel shin if you have the movement in your hip, or for me, once again, heel moves closer towards the right hip. Stacking or aligning the pelvis here onto the floor. I'm going to take my towel and place it underneath my left hip, and then you can always use your other towel on the other side and just, find that space. Find the ease in the posture, allowing your hips to be level and extending your back leg out. Take a deep breath in and coming forward, finding the expression that works for you. Maybe you're just hanging out here and you can let your head drop. Maybe you've got a little bit more and you lie down. Taking your breath and releasing forward. Beautiful stretch to the outer left hip. Noticing the levelness of the hips, feeling like you're not teetering or tottering towards one side or the other. fully supported and level. About 30 more seconds here. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, slide your hands underneath your shoulders. Slowly press yourself into your seat, shifting onto your left hip. You'll slowly draw your right foot forward. Once again, moving directly into our square pose. You might sit up onto the edge of that towel or blanket. And making sure that we're stacking the opposite side. So my left shin is on the mat, coming down onto the floor. Really trying to align the thigh bone with the hip if you can. Sometimes that's a bit difficult. And then the other shin stacks on top. And you'll notice the sides of the body have different flexibilities. You might notice that this side of my body, my knee drops a little bit more. I have more openness in my left side. Or right side, left side to you. And that can go back to our dominant side. The body might be a little bit more open. And so finding that stack of the legs, and we'll just be here for 2 minutes. Once again, you can stay sitting nice and tall, maybe close down your eyes and soften everything. Or maybe you begin to hinge forward a bit. But notice if we're holding the muscles, if your body is shaking like mine is right now, then we need to determine where we're holding effort and just breathe into it. The side of my body is not happy with the fold forward, so I'm just going to back away. That way I can soften. Not pushing my body into a place where it trembles, where it feels like it's working. I still feel a lot of sensation in my hips. But now my muscles can relax and I can simply be. About 30 more seconds here. Take a deep breath in. If you're folded forward, lengthen your spine, and as you inhale, heart forward, lifting, allowing your head and neck to arrive last. Slowly shifting onto your left hip, extend your right leg out. This one always gets me. My hips, oh, I just want to give a little wiggle, a little waggle. Let some movement in. Can always tap out the legs. Maybe even just this gentle tapping onto the thighs and a gentle release of energy down. So we're going to make our way onto our backs, coming into a gentle twist. So you can move your blankets out of the way or your towels and lie back. And then once we're here, just draw your knees in towards your chest. Give yourself a little hug, a little rock from side to side. Extending your arms down, you'll inhale, bring the knees in, lift and shift your hips towards the right, and then just drop your knees to the left. And then extend your arms out to the side. So we should have a nice stack of the hips here, and both arms should rest onto the floor. If they do not, a couple of tips here. I'm going to start the clock so we're not here too long while I'm explaining. Couple of tips. So you can take your towel or your blanket and put it between your legs. Lifting the legs up allows the body to tilt slightly and create more freedom into the right side body. Another option might be to place something underneath your legs. So again, lifting the body up a little bit here. If your shoulders are tight and you do not have any shoulder injuries, no rotator cuff injuries or dislocations, a really nice sensation is to lift your right arm next to your right ear and lengthen. So really pressing that right hip away, lengthen. And then as you exhale, draw that shoulder blade down the back, and as you move your arm out to the side, just kind of slip the shoulder blade back a little bit. So we really find more openness and more release into the shoulder. And then breathe. Breathing into the right side. Finding that nice twist. Really moving the spine in multiple directions helps lubricate those vertebrae that after a certain age, they stop producing their own blood flow. And they're reliant, the vertebral discs are reliant on the tissues around the vertebrae to get their nourishment, to receive the fluid. So when we compress and release into the spine, we're promoting this movement of fluid. When we age, those discs start to dry out a bit, especially if we don't move much. We begin to lose that plumpness, that juiciness of the discs, and they compress and can cause problems in our spine, not just compression, but herniated discs or movement. And then inhale. As you exhale, unwind. Come back to center and just realign your spine here. Pause for a moment. Allow the back to relax, the hips to release. And then we'll take the other side. Knees in towards your chest. Lift and shift your hips to the left and drape to the right. Even in twisting, we notice a difference in the flexibility of the body. You might need props on one side that you didn't on the other. You might need those little extra movements to find the arms releasing. So making any movements here to open up. Pressing that left hip gently away to increase space in the lower rib to the top of the hip. Great way to massage our internal organs as well. Twists are a great way to promote elimination, kind of encouraging our bowels to release by being massaged and compressed and released. About 30 more seconds here. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, unwind, come back to center. Just realign your spine here, draw your knees in towards your chest, make any other movement here that feels good in your body. Maybe a happy baby, or maybe just drawing knees in towards your chest. And then make your way into your Shavasana. Arms and legs extending out to the sides, palms facing up. You can take your towels across the belly. This is a really nice grounding effect. And then as you come into your shape, just allow everything to melt, to feel your body spread on the floor. If you were doing this practice in the morning, I would suggest a seated meditation. In the afternoon and evening, sometimes lying on the floor is much nicer. If you have low back discomfort, bending your knees, placing your feet outside of your hips, allow the knees to knock against one another and just come into a constructive rest shape. This is a really nice shape to release tension in the low back. I encourage you to stay in your Shavasana as long as you would like. And whenever you feel ready to come out of the shape, then you'll just invite in a stretch, a lengthening, like you're waking up for the first time, and then gently rolling onto your side. Always roll onto our side first and then press up to a seat to take care of our spine. And simply bowing your chin to your chest to bow and honor yourself. for taking time for self-care. Thank you all for joining me on this practice. I will see you again on your mat. This is Lisa. Namaste.